Hey everyone, have you ever done something nice for someone just because it felt like the right thing to do? No cameras, no social media posts, just a genuine moment of kindness. We often hear that what goes around comes around, but sometimes the come around is so big, it'll completely blow your mind. This is the incredible true story of one small act of compassion on a rainy day that ended up changing a young woman's entire life. It's a powerful reminder that you never know the impact a simple good deed can have. If you believe in karma and the power of paying it forward, you are going to love this story. So get ready for some serious chills. And hey, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell because you won't believe how this unfolds. Let us know in the comments about a time a small act of kindness came back to you. Now, let's get into the story. The rain wasn't just falling. It was attacking the city with a vicious horizontal fury. Emma pulled the collar of her cheap jacket tighter around her neck, but it was a futile gesture. She was already soaked to the skin, her sneakers making sad, squelching sounds with every step. The wind whipped her dark hair across her face, and she used her free hand to shield her eyes, peering through the downpour for the bus that was now 20 minutes late. This was the cherry on top of a truly terrible Sunday of a day. Her shift at the bustling downtown coffee shop Bean There had been a non-stop parade of demanding customers and spilled lattes. Her manager had just cut her hours, citing a slow season that somehow didn't apply to his own new sports car. And the final, crushing blow had come via a text message from her landlord. Rent increase effective next month. Sorry. The word sorry did nothing to calm the panic rising in her chest. She was already stretched thinner than the final layer of paint on her studio apartment walls. An extra $200 a month might as well have been $2 million. She felt the hot prick of tears mixed with the cold rain on her cheeks. She was 26, working a dead-end job, with a degree in business administration that felt as useful as a screen door on a submarine. That's when she saw her. An elderly woman, small and frail-looking, was standing at the curb of a busy intersection, looking utterly bewildered. She was clutching a thin plastic grocery bag that was being torn to shreds by the wind, and she had no umbrella. Her neat white hair was plastered to her head, and she was shivering violently, her knuckles white as she gripped a wooden cane. The walk signal flashed, then started its impatient blink. The woman took a hesitant step forward, her cane tapping on the wet pavement, but a speeding taxi hydroplaned through a puddle, sending a wall of dirty water onto the curb and startling her so badly she stumbled backward, nearly losing her balance. Without a single conscious thought, Emma was moving. Her own problems, her late bus, her soaked clothes, all of it vanished from her mind. She jogged across the street, splashing through the deepening puddles. "Ma'am, let me help you," Emma said, her voice raised over the drumming rain. She gently took the woman's arm, feeling the delicate bone beneath the wet wool of her coat. The woman looked up, her eyes a startlingly clear and intelligent blue, filled with a mixture of fear and gratitude. "Oh, thank you, dear," she said, her voice surprisingly steady despite her trembling frame. "The cars, they go so fast these days." "Don't I know it," Emma said, with a sympathetic smile. "Let's get you across. My name's Emma." "I'm Eleanor," the woman replied, allowing Emma to take most of her weight. They moved slowly. Emma held her free arm out, a human shield against the traffic, her body tense as she glared down a delivery van that looked like it wasn't going to stop. They made it to the other side, step by careful step. "Where are you headed?" Emma asked, noticing the woman was still shivering uncontrollably. "Just to the Somerset, around the corner," Eleanor said, pointing a shaky finger down the block. "It's my home." The Somerset was one of the oldest, most elegant apartment buildings in the city. It spoke of old money and quiet dignity, a world away from Emma's noisy, leaky walk-up. Emma didn't hesitate. "I'll walk you to your door." "You shouldn't be out in this. You're too kind," Eleanor murmured. The short walk to the Somerset's grand, awning-covered entrance felt like a mile. The doorman, dressed in a pristine uniform, immediately rushed out with an umbrella. "Miss Pembroke, good heavens, you're soaked," he exclaimed, his face etched with concern. He shot a suspicious glance at Emma. "It's all right, Henry," Eleanor said, patting Emma's hand which was still supporting her arm. "This young woman is my guardian angel. She rescued me from that dreadful intersection." Henry's expression softened into one of profound relief. "Thank you, miss. Truly." They entered the lavish, marble-lined lobby. It was warm and silent, a world apart from the storm. Emma felt acutely aware of her dripping clothes and soggy sneakers on the priceless Persian rug. "Can I offer you some tea, dear? To warm you up?" Eleanor asked, turning to Emma. It was a kind offer, a genuine one. But Emma was already feeling like an intruder in this palace. She also couldn't shake the thought of her missed bus and the mountain of problems waiting for her at home. "Oh no, thank you, Miss Pembroke. That's really sweet, but I should get going," Emma said, giving the woman's arm a final, gentle squeeze. You just get warm and dry, okay? Promise me? Eleanor's bright blue eyes held Emma's for a long moment, and Emma saw something deep and unreadable in them. It was more than just gratitude. It was a profound, almost sorrowful appreciation. I promise, Emma, she said softly. Thank you for your kindness. It is a rare and beautiful thing. With a final smile, Emma turned and hurried back out into the rain, the grand lobby doors closing behind her with a soft, final thud. The magic of the moment was gone, replaced by the cold, wet reality of her life. She had to wait another 40 minutes for a bus, and by the time she got home, she was shivering with a cold that would last for 3 days. She thought about the nice old lady, hoped she was warm, and then pushed the memory to the back of her mind, consumed once again by the crushing weight of her own struggles. It was a nice thing she did, but nice things, she thought bitterly, don't pay the rent. A week passed. The rain had cleared, replaced by a bland, forgettable sunshine that did little to lift Emma's spirits. She was sitting at the rickety table in her studio apartment, a spread of bills laid out before her like a game of solitaire she'd already lost. She was doing the math for the 10th time, the numbers stubbornly refusing to change. The rent increase was impossible. She'd have to move. The thought of packing up her life, of finding another shoebox she could barely afford, filled her with a weary dread. A sharp knock at the door made her jump. She wasn't expecting anyone. Wary, she peered through the peephole to see a man in a formal delivery uniform holding a thick, legal-sized envelope. Emma Davis? He asked, his voice muffled by the door. Hesitantly, she opened it. Yes? Special delivery for you. Need a signature. Bewildered, she signed the electronic pad he held out. He handed her the heavy envelope, gave a curt nod, and left. She stood in her doorway, staring at it. The return address was embossed in elegant, dark blue letters. Harrington and Finch, attorneys at law. Her heart did a nervous flip. Lawyers? Had she accidentally parked somewhere? Was she being sued? This was the last thing she needed. With trembling fingers, she tore it open. The letter inside was on thick, creamy paper, the header matching the envelope. Dear Miss Davis, please accept our condolences on the passing of our client, Ms. Eleanor Pembroke. Emma's breath caught in her throat. Eleanor. The woman from the rain. She'd passed away? A wave of sadness washed over her. She'd only met her for 10 minutes, but the woman's gentle dignity had left a mark. She read on, her eyes scanning the formal legal language. In accordance with the last will and testament of Eleanor Marie Pembroke, executed and witnessed on date, you are named as a primary beneficiary. Beneficiary? What did that mean? Maybe she'd left her a small token. A piece of jewelry? A few $100s? The thought was incredibly generous. Then her eyes reached the next paragraph, and the world stopped. The testator hereby bequeaths to Emma Davis, in its entirety, all shares, assets, and operational control of the company, known as Pembroke's Finest Preserves, including the commercial property located at 17 Heritage Lane, and all associated trademarks, recipes, and business goodwill. Emma read it again. And again. The words swirled on the page, refusing to make sense. The company. In its entirety. She stumbled to her laptop, her fingers fumbling, as she typed the name into the search bar. Pembroke's Finest Preserves. The company website loaded. It was charming, professional. There were pictures of a small, immaculate factory on the outskirts of the city. Articles from food magazines praising their artisanal small-batch jams and marmalades. A list of high-end grocery stores and boutique hotels that carried their products. This wasn't a hobby. This was a real, thriving, multi-million-dollar family business. A family business that was now hers. A dizzying wave of nausea and disbelief hit her. She gripped the edge of the table. This had to be a mistake. A cruel, elaborate prank. She'd helped a sweet old lady cross the street. That was it. People don't just give away companies because of that. The letter included a phone number for the law firm. With a shaking hand, she dialed. Harrington and Finch. How may I direct your call? A crisp voice answered. Yes, hello, my name is Emma Davis. I just received a letter about Eleanor Pembroke and her company. Ah, yes, Miss Davis. We've been expecting your call. This is Mr. Harrington. Please, allow me to explain. The lawyer's voice was calm and kind. He confirmed everything. It was not a mistake. Eleanor Pembroke, a lifelong, childless widow, had built Pembroke's Finest from the ground up with her late husband. It had been her life's work. Her entire family was gone. She spoke of you, Miss Davis, Mr. Harrington said gently. She called us the evening she met you. She was very insistent on updating her will. She said that in a city that had grown cold and indifferent, you were the only person who saw her not as an inconvenience, but as a human being. She said your kindness was unprompted and pure, and that her legacy would be safe in your hands. Emma hung up the phone, the lawyer's words echoing in the silent apartment. She looked around at the peeling paint, the stack of unpaid bills, the life of constant struggle. Then she looked at the letter in her hand. She hadn't just been given a business. She had been given a future. She had been seen, truly seen, in a way she never had been before. And in that moment, the rain, the missed bus, the shivering cold, it all made sense. It had all led her to that exact corner, at that exact moment, for a reason she could never have imagined. The following Monday, Emma stood outside 17 Heritage Lane. The building was a charming, red brick structure that looked more like a large, well-kept home than a factory. A discreet, polished brass sign read, Pembroke's Finest Preserves. Her hands were clammy. This was it, the place she now owned. The sheer, terrifying absurdity of it still hadn't fully sunk in. She took a deep breath and walked inside. The air was warm and sweet, thick with the scent of simmering fruit and sugar. A comforting, homely aroma. A woman in her 50s, with a kind face and her hair tied back in a practical bun, looked up from a clipboard. "Can I help you?" she asked, her tone friendly but curious. "Hi," Emma said, her voice a little shaky. I'm Emma Davis." The woman's eyes widened in instant recognition. "Oh, Ms. Davis. We heard. I'm Sarah. I was Ms. Pembroke's operations manager." She came around the counter, her expression a complex mix of grief, curiosity, and hope. "We're so glad you're here. We were all so fond of Eleanor. She spoke very highly of you." She hadn't. She couldn't have. She'd only met her once, but Emma understood. Eleanor had seen something in her, and she had trusted these people with that feeling. Sarah gave her a tour. It was a place of love and craftsmanship. Workers in crisp aprons stirred huge copper kettles of bubbling jam. Others hand-poured the finished product into jars and affixed the beautiful, old-fashioned labels. There was a small, sunlit office where Eleanor's presence was still palpable. A worn ledger on the desk, a faded photo of her, and a man who must have been her husband. "It was her life," Sarah said softly, following Emma's gaze. She was so worried about what would happen to it. She didn't want it sold off to some big corporation that would ruin the recipes. She wanted it to stay pure. Emma felt the weight of that responsibility settle on her shoulders, but it wasn't a crushing weight. It was an anchor. This wasn't just a business. It was a testament to a lifetime of love and work. The transition wasn't without its challenges. There was paperwork, meetings with distributors, and getting to know the 20 employees who now looked to her for leadership. But Emma discovered a strength she never knew she had. Her business degree, which had felt so useless before, suddenly had a purpose. She had ideas about expanding their online presence, about creating gift sets, about partnering with local tea shops. She wasn't just a caretaker, she was a steward. She honored Eleanor's traditional recipes, but brought them into a new era. She treated the employees with the respect and kindness they deserved, and they, in turn, gave her their loyalty and hard work. 1 year to the day after she received the letter, Emma stood in the factory's small courtyard, surrounded by her employees, celebrating the company's best financial year on record. They had just landed a contract with a major national retailer. As she raised a glass of sparkling cider for a toast, her eyes fell on a small, framed photo she kept on her desk, brought from Eleanor's old office. It was of Eleanor and her husband, standing right here in this courtyard, young and smiling, surrounded by their first batch of strawberry jam. A profound sense of peace filled Emma. The desperate, struggling barista was a distant memory. She had a home, a purpose, a family in these people. She had taken a legacy of kindness and nurtured it into a legacy of success. She realized then that Eleanor hadn't just given her a company. She had given her a chance to discover who she was always meant to be. The greatest blessing from her single act of kindness wasn't the wealth or the security. It was the proof that in a world that often feels cold, a warm heart is the most valuable currency of all. And that sometimes, the most extraordinary journeys begin with a simple decision to help someone cross the street.